There are these really big drogue stones that have been found. Now, what ships were they? I don't know.
A secret excavation, a priceless relic, and a DNA test that could shatter history. For centuries, the world has searched for Noah's Ark. Now, evidence has finally been found, and the genetic code of Noah's family has been sequenced. But this isn't a story of confirmation. It's a story of a shocking revelation that powerful people want to keep hidden. The DNA results are so explosive, they challenge the very definition of humanity as described in the Bible. What they found locked in these ancient relics is a secret that changes our understanding of where we all came from. DNA of the deluge. Many people are crazy about the legend of Noah's Ark. For centuries, adventurers, archaeologists, and believers have scoured the treacherous slopes of Mount Ararat in Turkey, searching for any sign of the colossal vessel. The thing nobody tells you is that most of these expeditions end in failure, finding nothing but ice and rock. But in late 2024, a privately funded group using technology that sounds like science fiction found something that could rewrite history. This wasn't a well-publicized university dig, it was a quiet, almost secret operation backed by anonymous donors with very deep pockets. They weren't looking for giant wooden beams. They were looking for something much smaller. You see, they were using ground-penetrating radar and satellite imaging far more advanced than anything used before. They focused on an area about 18 miles from the main Ararat Peak near the now famous Darupanar site, a boat-shaped formation that has intrigued and baffled researchers for over 50 years. While many experts have dismissed Darupanar as a natural geological feature, this team believed the real prize was buried nearby, washed down from the mountain over millennia. For months, they drilled core samples, pulling up mud and stone from hundreds of feet below the surface. Then they hit it. A layer of hardened, black, pitch-like resin mixed with what looked like petrified wood fragments. It was almost 300 feet down, preserved in an oxygen-free environment. What many overlooked is that ancient pitch used to waterproof boats is an incredible preservative. Like ancient amber trapping insects, this pitch had trapped microscopic organic material from whoever handled it thousands of years ago. The most shocking fact is they found preserved skin cells within the hardened pitch. It was a 1 in a billion chance. The team, operating in a mobile clean lab on site, immediately began the delicate process of ancient DNA, or a DNA, extraction. This is an incredibly difficult task. Ancient DNA shatters into tiny fragments over time, and contamination from modern sources is a huge problem. Even a single skin cell from a lab tech could ruin the sample. But this team used next-generation techniques, sequencing millions of tiny DNA fragments and using computers to piece them together like a massive genetic puzzle. They were expecting to find a DNA profile consistent with ancient Mesopotamian people, the ancestors of modern Middle Eastern populations. Finding that would have been the discovery of the century, tangible proof of the historical figures behind the biblical story. But what they found was, to put it mildly, impossible. The mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down from the mother, didn't match any known human group. It had markers that had never been seen before. Then came the nuclear DNA results from the cell's nucleus. The genome was human, but with chilling abnormalities. There were over 46 chromosomes, but some were fused together in ways never documented. And stranger still, a section of the genome, a part scientists called junk DNA, showed a level of complexity that baffled the geneticists on the team. It was almost like a coded language, structured in a way that didn't seem natural. This wasn't the DNA of a simple boat builder from the ancient world, it was something else. The team's leader called an emergency meeting with the funders. The mission was to prove the Bible. Instead, they had found something that would cause a global panic. What they discovered suggests Noah's family was not what we thought. A secret too big to keep. The moment the DNA results came in, the project went into total lockdown. You see, the mysterious benefactors who had poured millions of dollars into this expedition weren't just curious philanthropists. They were part of a secretive global organization dedicated to proving the literal truth of ancient scriptures. Their goal was to present the world with undeniable scientific proof that Noah was a real historical figure from the Middle East. What they got instead was a genetic nightmare that threatened the very foundations of their beliefs. The shocking data was a secret they couldn't afford to let out. The thing is, secrets this big rarely stay buried for long. The initial reaction was denial. The lead geneticist was ordered to run the tests again and again and again. Every single time, the results were the same. The strange, almost alien genetic markers were there. The fused chromosomes were real. The bizarrely complex junk DNA was not a glitch. Panic set in among the project's leadership. They had discovered proof of something monumental, but it wasn't the proof they wanted. And you can see this everywhere when powerful beliefs clash with uncomfortable facts. The first instinct is to hide the evidence. All communication from the site was cut off. The scientific team was forced to sign expanded non-disclosure agreements with legal threats that would ruin their careers forever. The official story was that the samples were too degraded or contaminated to yield any useful results. The multi-million-dollar expedition was quietly labeled a failure. But not everyone was willing to play along. A junior biotechnician on the team, a brilliant young scientist who had been working on the data sequencing computers, had made a firewalled copy of the entire genome sequence. He believed that this information was too important for humanity to be hidden away by a few powerful individuals. To him, this wasn't about confirming or debunking a religious text. It was about a revolutionary discovery in human genetics, maybe the biggest of all time. After wrestling with his conscience for weeks, he made a decision that would change the world. Using encrypted channels, he leaked the entire dataset, the raw genetic sequences, the lab notes, and the internal memos discussing the cover-up to a handful of independent genetic research institutes around the world. The leak was an atomic bomb. At first, most mainstream scientists dismissed it as an elaborate hoax. The data was too perfect, too bizarre, it had to be fake. But then labs in Germany, Japan, and the United States began to validate the findings. The data was real. The genetic code was unlike anything ever seen. What many overlooked was that the leak didn't just include the DNA sequence, it included the location of the core sample. Suddenly, the world's attention turned back to that quiet patch of land in Turkey, a place that was now the epicenter of a scientific and historical earthquake. The cover-up had failed, and in its place, a firestorm of questions and controversy was about to erupt. The world now knew a secret was found. But what did it mean? The anomaly in our bloodline. The leaked data from the Noah relic sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It was like discovering a new color or a new law of physics. The most shocking fact is that for the first time, a tangible piece of evidence suggested a lost chapter in human history. The immediate question on everyone's mind was, what are we looking at? The data was posted on open-source servers, and scientists everywhere, from top university professors to amateur biohackers, began analyzing the strange genome. Three main theories emerged, each more controversial than the last. You see, when you're faced with something that doesn't fit any known category, you have to start thinking outside the box. The first and most conservative theory was that the DNA belonged to a previously unknown and long-extinct branch of the human family tree. We know about Neanderthals and Denisovans who interbred with our Homo sapiens ancestors. Perhaps, this theory went, there was another, far more advanced hominid species that existed over 6,000 years ago. A species with a different chromosomal structure and unique genetic makeup that died out after the cataclysmic event known as the Great Flood. This would explain the unusual DNA, but would also mean that our understanding of human evolution was fundamentally wrong. It would imply a far more complex past, with advanced human-like beings walking the earth that we had no record of. The second theory was far more radical. Some geneticists focused on the incredibly complex, structured patterns in the so-called junk DNA. It didn't look random, it looked designed. This led to the explosive hypothesis that the genome had been genetically engineered. Was it possible that Noah and his family were not just simple humans, but were part of some ancient genetic experiment? This idea, once confined to late-night talk shows, was now being seriously debated in scientific circles. The structured DNA was so sophisticated that some even called it a biological operating system. But if they were engineered, who was the engineer? This theory opened a Pandora's box of questions about ancient aliens or a lost, godlike civilization. The third theory was the most unsettling of all. What if the DNA wasn't from a different type of human, but from something that was in the process of becoming human? A few researchers proposed that the fused chromosomes and unique markers weren't a sign of a different species, but of a rapid, guided evolutionary event. Could the Great Flood have been a trigger for a massive genetic reset, with Noah's family carrying a new kind of DNA that would eventually spread across the globe? It would mean that their descendants, all of us, might still carry dormant fragments of this bizarre genetic code hidden deep within our own DNA. What many overlooked is that this theory connected an ancient story to every single person alive today. The mystery wasn't just buried in a mountain in Turkey, it was inside us all. Now the world had to ask, who or what were we descended from? The dawn of a new reality. So what does this all mean for us, right now? People watching this are looking for a mystery, and this might be the biggest one ever uncovered. The thing is, when a discovery like this happens, it's easy to get swept away by the wild theories. But let's slow down for a second. The discovery of this anomalous DNA doesn't automatically mean aliens, hidden civilizations, or a lost race of super beings. What it really tells us is that our history is far more tangled and mysterious than we've ever dared to believe. It's a reminder that we've barely begun to scratch the surface of our own past. Are we missing a crucial detail that could explain all of this? Almost certainly. The truth is, this comes from just one genetic sample found in one remote location. Science thrives on repeatable results, and until more relics show up with matching DNA, this remains a powerful anomaly, something both deeply fascinating and deeply frustrating. Still, anomalies are how revolutions in science begin. Some researchers are already whispering that this could be a missing branch of humanity's family tree, a branch that was pruned long before recorded history began. Skeptics are, of course, trying to bring things back down to earth. Could the sample have been contaminated by an ancient strain of bacteria, one so extreme that it rewrote the genetic code over thousands of years? Or maybe what we're seeing isn't alien or divine at all, but the result of a rare chromosomal mutation, something that made these ancient people biologically distinct but still human. Those are the practical questions. But beyond them, the imagination runs wild. Some fringe theorists have suggested that this DNA may have come from a group of hybrid survivors, descendants of a pre-flood civilization that mixed with early humans. Others claim that what scientists actually found was not a new species, but evidence of advanced genetic engineering, an ancient society that understood DNA manipulation long before modern science. There are even whispers that this could connect to the legendary Watchers or Nephilim, beings described in early biblical texts as half human, half divine. Then there's the matter of where this DNA was found: Turkey, near the region traditionally associated with Mount Ararat. That's no coincidence to many. If the biblical flood was real and Noah's Ark truly came to rest there, then the genetic anomaly could represent a literal remnant of that story. But what if the flood wasn't just local? Nearly every ancient civilization, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, has a great flood myth. The Epic of Gilgamesh speaks of a deluge wiping out humanity. In Hindu legends, Manu survives a flood that resets the world. In Greece, Deucalion and Pyrrha rebuild civilization after the waters recede. Maybe it wasn't one family in the Middle East who survived, it was many, scattered across continents, each carrying fragments of a shared trauma and a shared genetic inheritance. The DNA found in Turkey could be one small piece of a global story, proof that a cataclysm reshaped humanity and diversified it at the same time. And if these survivors were biologically different, then maybe humanity as we know it today isn't one single lineage but the result of several merging after disaster. Some of the more daring theories go even further. What if the flood wasn't caused by natural forces, but by something else entirely? A self-inflicted event. One idea gaining traction online is that this ancient civilization may have tampered with their environment or genetics to the point of collapse, forcing nature to reset itself. In that sense, the flood could be symbolic of a mass extinction triggered by human hands, a pattern eerily similar to what we're facing now. So does this discovery prove we were created by something beyond our understanding? What secrets are still hidden in our own DNA? Let us know your theories below. Like and subscribe.